Hey guys, this is Kush, your local realtor in Metro Vancouver and the Fraser Valley, and today we will talk about numbers, what a typical lot in Surrey costs, what the building costs are, and at the end of the day, what the profit potentials are. So here we go. Okay, so in Surrey, there's many different types of zoning types, but the most common ones that we see are three. There's RF10, RF13, and RF. RF10 is the smallest one with 33 feet frontage and approximately 3,500 square feet. Could be a little less, could be a little more, but this is the most common square feet that we see. RF13 is the most common nowadays. That's your typical 40 feet frontage and 4,000 square feet lot. This is the one that's usually subdivided from an 8,000 square feet lot to two smaller 4,000 square feet lots with from 80 feet frontage to 40 each. And RF is of course the biggest one. Your standard, your typical 60s, 70s PC boxes are on RF zone lots. They're typically 60 by 120. So a 7,200 square feet would be the most common type for RF zone lot, but they could be anywhere from 5,000 all the way up to like 20,000 or something, right? So let's go over each one of them and let's talk about all the numbers. Okay, so let's start with the smallest RF10 zone lot. A typical lot nowadays anywhere in Surrey costs approximately $1 million. Of course, it all depends on the neighborhood. It could be anywhere from 850 all the way up to like 1.1. The cheapest areas are usually very north of city, let's say Boulevard Heights, Bridgeview, or the most expensive ones would be, let's say, Granby Heights or Sullivan Station. But that's where most of the common RF10 lots are found. A typical lot nowadays, let's just say it's approximately $1 million. This is of course May 2024. City fees, all the permits and stuff, holding, the interest you pay, and of course the selling commissions and stuff for the realtors. Everything together, it's usually $100K. The building cost, it depends. Vancouver side, it's anywhere from $300, $350 up to like $400 a foot. In Surrey, it is many variables, usually anywhere from 170 per square feet all the way up to like 250 per square feet. That's the common. Of course, we're building a spec home, so we'll try to make it as cheap as possible, but if we're still sort of like a mid-level grade, let's just say it's like $180 to $200 per square feet. That's the standard nowadays. It all depends on your builder as well. If you are a builder, of course, you'll save the $70,000-$80,000 in the management costs. But if you're not a builder, then you also have to add the management cost as well. So typical 3,000 square foot house for RF10, the smallest lot. Usually we're only allowed like a 2,900 square feet, 3,000 square foot house. The cost is, let's say, $600K for 200 a foot. All in would be this plus this plus this. It's 1.7, and the cash required usually is like 35% of the entire the project cost, which let's say in this case is 1.7. So the selling price for a typical RF10 zone lot in like a typical neighborhood of Sullivan Station would be around 1.75. So this is again like a 3,000 square foot house on a 3,500 square foot lot, a brand new house, of course, plus GST. Profit potential would be selling price minus all in. So 50K would be the profit potential anywhere from 8 months to a year. So the ROI would be around 8% for cash. So we put 600K, we make 50K, so that's like 8% in a year. Usually it's like it could also be made in like 8 months, but let's just say it takes an entire year to complete on the property. Okay, moving on to the next one, RF13, the most common ones that builders are making nowadays. Typically 40 feet frontage, 4,000 square feet lot, and typically it's like 3,600 to 3,800 square feet built size for the house. Typical lot nowadays, again, let's say Sullivan Station, Granby Heights, Pacific Douglas, it's like 1.1 million. The selling, all the fees, usually 120K. Building cost, 3,600 square feet would be 720. All in is 1.92. Cash a little more than the RF10, 700, but of course the selling price for a bigger house is of course more than the smaller house. So usually around 2 million. I've seen them sell for even like 1.8. We've even seen them sell for 2.2 as well. So many variables, but a typical lot, RF13 lot would sell for 2 million, and the profit potential would be $80,000. And the ROI would be 11% for if we put 700K, which is like 35% of 1.9. Okay, moving on to the lot that every builder wants nowadays. It's RF. That's the standard 60-foot frontage, 7,000, 8,000 square feet lot. Typical lot nowadays costs 1.3. Yes, it depends on the location. If it's Fleetwood, it could be even 1.4. if it's Boulevard Heights, it could even be like 1.1. It depends. There's many variables. Of course, it also depends if we can build a 2-story versus a 3-story house. It's like 50% of the, or I'd say like 30% of Surrey, you can only build the 3-story house. Like most of Surrey, you're not allowed to build a basement suite, just because the city services are not deep enough. Usually you can pay like $200-300 to an engineer, and they can let you know if we can build an in-ground basement or not. That being said, a typical, let's say a 3-story RF zone lot, it's, let's say 1.3, cities fees holding everything, the selling cost $150K. Building cost, usually it's a 5,400 square foot house. If it's a 7,200 square foot lot, you're allowed 3,600 square feet on the top 2 floors, and whatever the basement would be, usually 1,800 square feet. So it's like a 5,400 square feet 3-story house. Usually costs a little over $1,050K, and all in would be 2.45. It's a big number. Usually the cash required is 860, but trust me, you should have at least $1 million, if not a little more. But the absolute minimum the banks would even consider you would be 860K. And the selling price for a typical 3-story lot, Sullivan Station, Fleetwood, East Newton, 2.65. That's the basic average. Yes, they sell for 2.45. Yes, they sell for 3 million, depending if it's like Morgan. Oh no, Morgan Creek, that's like even more. But anywhere like a nice like quiet street, 2.65, 2.7 is the average number nowadays. Even Cloverdale is like really up there. It's like 2.7, 2.75. So let's just say 2.65 is the average. Profit potential would be 150K. The ROI, depending on the cash you put down, is around 17%. So of course, the more money we have, or the more money we put down, the more profit we make. And yeah, that's also. Okay, so of course there are many variables. Depends on the location, depends on if you're on a busy street or not, depends on if there's any easements, depends on the shape of the lot as well. Of course, the rectangular lots are usually desirable. If it's a cul-de-sac, sort of like a pie-shaped lot, or a weird irregular lot, that's not really desirable, and they usually take a longer time to sell. So of course, if you're looking for a lot, try to make sure it's a normal rectangular lot on a quiet street in, of course, a desirable neighborhood. And other than that, of course, this was just Surrey, but similar sort of numbers apply to Delta. Delta is R7, which is the smaller size lot. They usually are selling for 1.1, 1.2, and then of course the brand new houses anywhere from 2 million up to 2.2. And similar in Langley, Willoughby Heights, it's very similar nowadays. Port Coquitlam, for slightly more expensive, but very similar idea applies. And if you have any specific questions about any specific city, or if you're looking to buy a lot, please reach out to me, and I would love to get you into a lot. Of course, I have a lot of work with a lot of builders, worked with a lot of developers. I've been doing this for many years, just even before COVID started. And yeah, just shoot me a message if you're looking for a lot. Shoot me a message if you're a builder, and then yeah, let's go from there.